silence for our nation's
Okay. So is it my turn now? Okay. Hello. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope this is a magnificent afternoon for all of you. I am Thelma Geraldine Baricao of the HR Approaches Inc. and former Vice President and Dean of San Beda College, Alabang. Okay? And I will be your moderator for this webinar. So today marks not only the first day of the Burr month, this is also another period where we witness challenges arising in the implementation of the Learning Continuity Plan. As schools and LGUs ensure that minimum health protocols are being met to keep teachers and students safe, uncertainties on safety, access to and availability of teaching and learning resources, job security, and the shifts in the communication processes are being caught and documented by the media. Therefore, it is necessary for us to know the facts that surround the changes that we are seeing so that we can respond better and craft appropriate solutions and actions. This webinar aims to realign realities in the field of education. And our discussion will mainly cover one, where we are now in the learning continuity plan, and we shall have talks about the lived experiences of teachers and students in the community, especially those at the grassroots level. As we are meeting in the digital world, we ask that you bear with us in case of technical difficulties. If you think that this webinar will benefit a colleague, the following may be shared. They can watch by typing People Management Association of the Philippines or search for at PMAP 1956 in our Facebook and YouTube channel. Questions may be sent using the WebEx chat. And for those watching via Facebook or YouTube, kindly post them in the comments section. Kindly note that presentation materials are one of the perks of being a PMAP member. For PMAP members who wish to have a copy of the slides and for non-members who wish to be a member of PMAP, kindly send an email to rhea.paragsa@pmap.org.philippines. Okay, so are you up to it now? Are you listening? Our first panelist for this seminar will update us on matters that concern basic education. He is instrumental in the review of the curriculum and is an advocate of best practices on learning literacy and school governance. Let us give a warm welcome to the Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction, USEC Diosdado M. San Antonio. Virtual clap, please. Then to talk the lived experience of teachers, students, and parents in preparation for the opening of classes, we have invited a guest who is instrumental in the passage of select bills on education and health. A former teacher, she is now a two-term member of the House of Representatives. Let us give a round of applause to ACT Teachers Party List, Representative Franz Castro. Our next speaker will be presenting his organization's findings on the teachers, parents, and students' readiness for the opening of classes. He is well distinguished for his works on trade union and human rights, and is a member of the Executive Board of Education International. Let us give another digital clap for the youngest Secretary General of the Association of Concerned Teachers Philippines, Mr. Raymond Basilio. So moving forward, we need to hear how schools in the indigenous peoples communities cope with the learning continuity. Our next speaker is a volunteer teacher for Lumad Schools and is also an advocate of human rights and education. Let us give our warm greetings to Save Our Schools Network representative, Ms. Jeannie Rose Hayahay. So finally, our last speaker will be presenting how their division was able to build and implement their model for blended or distant learning. Our last speaker is an advocate of action research and is instrumental in several initiatives that aim to upskill his fellow educators. He is currently the Education Program Supervisor and Division Information and Communication Officer for DepEd Navotas City. So let us now give a round of applause to Dr. Marco Meduranda. So we shall now proceed with the presentation of our panelists. Ali, our first speaker, please. Shall we call on our first speaker, Honorable Franz Castro?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Ako po ba ang first speaker?
Yes.
Okay, sige. Nagulat ako, kala ko.
Sorry, it's Diosdado San Antonio, I think. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Sige, later pa po ako.
Oh, yeah, but is
Okay.
Sir Antonio there? San Antonio there? I don't see the pronunciation.
Yes, I'm
Ayan.
here.
So sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Ma'am Telma. Many of the things I'm going to share this afternoon are already known to a lot of people. The Department of Education has prepared the learning continuity plan so that we can make learning opportunities available to our learners even during the time of COVID-19 pandemic. It provides guidance to all levels of governance in the Department of Education, central office, regions, divisions, and schools, and even to our education partners so that we can fulfill our responsibility to provide learning opportunities to our children. Our basic education learning continuity plan has five principles. First, we seek to protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel, and prevent the further transmission of COVID-19 pandemic. We also wish to ensure that learning will indeed continue. Of course, we will facilitate the safe return of learners and teachers to school when face-to-face classes would be allowed, hopefully by January 2021. We also will be very sensitive to equity considerations and concerns and endeavor to address them as best as we can. And finally, we will link and bridge the basic education learning continuity plan of the Department of Education to our pivot to quality and into the future of education under the framework of Sulong Edukalidad and Futures Thinking in Education. Our basic education learning continuity plan has streamlined the K-12 curriculum to the most essential learning competencies. We are offering multiple learning delivery modalities with blended learning and distance learning as major options. We will prepare teachers, school leaders, parents, and community for multiple learning delivery modalities. We will stick with the required health standards in schools and workplaces. The Brigada Eskwela o Plan Balik Eskwela and partnerships have been reconfigured. The finance, procurement, and delivery mechanisms are also looked into and addressed, and monitoring, evaluation, and adjustments are always part of the things we do in the Department of Education. For our readiness, we consider enrollment, curriculum, distance learning modalities, learning resources, assessment, teacher training, resource mobilization, health standards, and regional contextualization as the broad areas where we try to take a look at the extent of readiness of our schools. In terms of curriculum, we have, as I mentioned, streamlined the learning competencies. We have identified the most essential learning competencies from an original 14,171 full K-12 learning competencies in our curriculum documents. We will implement the most essential learning competencies of about 5,689 for school year 2020-2021. And many of the learners have opted to use the modular learning delivery modality as their option, followed by a combination of different distance learning modalities, and also next in terms of popularity of choices is online by about 3 million, more than 3 million learners. Then TV by about 1.5 million learners, radio less than a million learners, and other modalities about 500,000. Those choosing to do a modular according to our existing data as of today is about 9 million learners. In terms of status for the printing of the self-learning modules, the centrally provided self-learning modules as of last Monday or last week, we have about 60% of the SLMs being reproduced. In terms of training, more than 80% of our fellow teachers have been provided training by the central office, division offices, regional offices. In terms of arrangements for radio and TV based instruction, more than two-thirds of what we hope to be able to accomplish has been accomplished. In terms of preparation for online learning, about 60%. In terms of training orientation of parents, more than half, more than 50% of the parents have been trained. And in terms of health protocols, about 60% have been implemented or identified and prepared. So we now have all the division offices having achieved the target 80% of the enrollment trends, because for the information of everyone, as we speak, the enrollment for the whole DepEd now is 23.98 million, 86.31%. 22.01 million, 97.55% is from the public schools, and 1.90 million is representing 44.67% is from the private schools. And about 398,000 are transferees from private schools to the public schools. Originally, our target was 80%, so we have exceeded the target, but of course, we're not happy that there are still learners who have not yet decided to return. And we are very optimistic that they will hopefully be enrolling themselves in the formal schools or the alternative learning systems in due time. Um, so 63, as I've said, 136 out of 214 schools division offices are on track in terms of the reproduction of the modules. And in terms of choices for online learning, 163 of the 214 schools division offices have already indicated their preparedness for this online learning. Online learning will also mean that there would be public schools doing classes using the internet. We understand that there are issues on the like the stability of the internet, but for those that have chosen to do this, we are providing a learning management system. The teachers were trained on how to prepare and utilize the learning management system, facilitate lessons using the online modes. And parents and guardians are also being prepared, even for in terms of health and safety protocols. The Department of Education has issued the guideline, and we will be implementing them, especially when the face-to-face is allowed, or even for teachers who may be requested to report to school on certain days, so that they can prepare well for their lessons as we deliver distance learning delivery modalities during this school year. And we have been also supported by our external partners through the Brigada Escuela. And we have noted that certain local governments are even helping us provide the gadgets that the learners will need, so that we can have more learners using the learning resources that may not require us to consume more paper. And the Department of Education does not claim to have created a perfect learning continuity plan, although that plan has been constructed or designed with inputs from all sectors of our society, several meetings from within DepEd and our stakeholders through the Education Forum, where even leaders of the Senate and Congress are represented in our multilateral agencies providing inputs in the design of the learning continuity plan. As I've said, that we have never claimed that it's a perfect plan, but it's a plan that we feel is sufficient for us to make sure that the children, the youngsters of our country, will be given the opportunity to continue to learn even during the time of pandemic. Let us note that our neighboring countries are already starting the delivery of basic education services in their areas. And so we will have to really make sure that the Filipino youngsters would also be given the chance to be able to possess the foundational skills that they would need in terms of being competitive in this highly globalized society. And we also know that the distance learning delivery modality may have some setbacks, but we also understand that there could also be positive things that may be happening in terms of this distance learning delivery modality, because the children will be learning from home. Perhaps their values will be more strengthened because they will not be exposed to outside influences. The parents can take the chance of really creating Filipinos who are deeply ingrained with the core Filipino values that we need so that we can progress as a nation. We also always say that one significant factor for effective learning to happen is for the child to be motivated. So we always remind parents and fellow teachers that the effort to engage the child, the youngster, in the learning task should always be remembered. We should make sure that the child is excited to learn. And we also have been saying that various scholars have declared that when the parents are deeply engaged in the academic lives of their children, the children tend to learn better. The children tend to achieve more in terms of the academic outputs expected of them. So, as I've said, if all of us will continue to work together, offer various ideas on how we can refine and come up with best practices, I am optimistic that even during the COVID-19 emergency, the youngsters of the Philippines will be able to learn, will not be left behind. We have witnessed the countless hundreds of dry runs that have been staged by the schools and division offices and regions, and we have seen how creative our fellow teachers are, how resourceful our school heads are, because after all, Secretary Leonor Liling Magtolis Briones always points out that there is no one size fits all in terms of delivering basic education services during this COVID-19 emergency. We have to allow the field offices, the schools, the division offices, and the regions to contextualize their responses to the challenge of making learning happen among the youngsters of our country. Thank you very much po, and God bless PMAP.
Thank you so much, Yusek Diosdado San Antonio. We're so encouraged with the information that you've given to us. So we move forward to progress. Thank you. So let's now listen to Honorable Franz Castro.
Thank you, Ma'am Telma. Magandang hapon po sa ating mga kasamang resource persons. At syempre po doon po sa ating mga tagapakinig or tagapanood sa Facebook Live. Salamat muli sa PMAP sa pagkakataon. So, Ma'am Telma, meron po akong share na
Sure. Go ahead.
kayo po mag-share. May request the host to share my presentation, please.
Earl. Oh, we can see you now. Oh, yeah.
Yan.
Okay.
Okay, so realigning realities, a webinar on access to education amid COVID-19. So what is education in this pandemic? So we agree with the Department of Education that education must continue and no child should be left behind. However, it should not be at the expense of our teachers and students. We cannot put them in risk. Kaya po sinasabi po natin sa ating mga PRs at mga sinasabi at mga pagbabalita po at sa iba pang mga venue na dapat ang ating gobyerno, dahil panahon po ito ng pandemya, dapat ang ating gobyerno ay matugunan yung problema po natin sa COVID-19. So next slide please. So sabi natin, we need a government to come up with a comprehensive and proactive plan for a safe, quality, and accessible reopening of schools amid pandemic. So natutuwa po ako kay Yusek Dads, no? Inuna niya yung sinasabi nating sa pagbubukas ng klase kailangan ay ligtas at syempre tayo rin po na naghahabol din ng kalidad na edukasyon. Okay. Next slides. So mula po nung June 1 yun po yung original na opening ng klase, naging August 24 and finally naging October 5. So napansin kasi natin after more than 4 months or 3 months, napansin natin na tumataas pa rin yung kaso ng COVID-19. Kaya kinailangan ng Presidente through the recommendation of the DepEd to officially start the class on October 5. So, dahil sa announcement din ng ating Pangulo na no face-to-face classes during the pandemic. So, the Department of next slide. So, ang Department of Education adopted a new Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. So, first, ang ginawa po ng DepEd ay nagkaroon siya ng MELC o yung most essential learning competencies. Binawasan po yung mga competencies under the K-12. Yung mga learning modalities ay katulad na sinasabi kanina ni Yusek Dads, yung blended learning, according to the depende po yun sa kakayahan ng mga estudyante, ng teachers at saka ng school itself. So it could be online distance learning, modular distance learning, TV radio-based distance learning, or combination. So sa ngayon, parang 90% yata yung nag-adapt for modular distance learning. So what are the, next slide. So what are the issues and challenges faced by teachers, the students, and of course the parents themselves? So una po ay dun muna tingnan natin yung sa enrollment. So as of August 28, the enrollment is 23 million. Next slide. Next slide, please. So 23,910,974. So that is 86.03% of the total number of enrollees as of August 28. So with the public schools, 21,971 and 428. So 97.33%. So sa enrollment po, yung naging problema natin ay yung sa bahagi ng mga private schools. Kasi out of 4 million, talagang lumiit siya. So sa public school naman, nearly 100%. Pero alam po natin yung enrollment natin tumataas siya ng 2% every year based doon sa mga previous year. Pero from 27.7 million last year to 23,910, so that means marami pa po tayong hahabulin in terms of enrollment natin sa mga bata. So yun yung isa pong nakikita ko na challenge. Okay? Next. So ayun. So in-expect natin, the Department of Education should expect higher enrollment compared to the previous because every year there is an increment. Sa kagaya na po na nasabi ko ay 2% na increment. At ang greatest challenge po natin ay yung mga private schools dahil sinabi nga there are 440 schools na nagsara. Siyempre yung mga bata, more than 400,000 pa lang po yung nakalipat sa public schools. So yun. Okay, next slide po. Isa pa pong challenge yung physical reporting of teachers without transportation, health screening, or hazard pay. So sa ngayon po dahil for example in the NCR, limited pa lang po yung mga transportation. Pero noong June 1, pinagre-report na yung mga teachers, limited yung transportation at saka syempre during that time hanggang ngayon po ay wala pa talagang general screening in terms of health yung ating mga teachers and of course yung hazard pay. So ang problema natin sa hazard pay according to the MOs ay yung mga ECQ at saka under MECQ MECQ yung mayroon lang pong hazard pay. Isa pa pong challenge ay no functional clinic. Okay? So, marami po tayong mga schools na wala pong mga functional na clinics. Another one is no sanitation or infection facilities and equipment. Yan. So, hindi pa po kumpleto yung ating mga eskwelahan itong mga facilities na ito. Inadequate water supply. So, sa panahon ng pandemic, sinasabi naman ng DOH na mahalaga talaga yung water supply. Kagaya ka sinasabi ng lagi ay wash your hands parate. Kaya paano magagawa yun kung wala po tayong adequate water supply? And of course, meron din po tayong kakapusan doon sa budget sa modules. Although sinabi naman ng DepEd na nag-download na po sila ng pondo na 9-point-something million sa ating mga eskwelahan, ay billion pala sa ating mga eskwelahan, pero hindi pa po yata nakakarating yan sa karamihan. Okay, next slide. Teachers' capacity and resources. So according to the findings, there was a survey conducted by the Alliance of Concerned Teachers regarding the assessment on the readiness of the teachers. So according po doon sa kanilang survey, 3 in 4 teachers have computers they can use for schoolwork. Around the same proportion also reported having internet access at home. Only a third of whom have access to unlimited internet. And 6 in 10 reported that they own a printer at home. And close to 10 teachers stated that they have smartphones but cannot use them for online classes. So ito po yung kapasidad ng ating mga guro in terms of dun sa mga online classes or dun sa online teaching. Okay, next slide. With the challenges, the learning continuity plan of DepEd is considered inaccessible and discriminatory for the poorest and marginalized sector. So kung ganito po yung sitwasyon, masasabi po natin na medyo may problema po tayo doon sa access ng education. Okay? So next. Sabi nga po ng ilang ng ating mga teachers, based sa consultations natin po with the community, parents, and stakeholders, ito pala sa mga estudyante natin, wala daw silang internet, yung mga mag-aaral, hindi Android naman yung mga cellphone ng mga magulang natin. So yun po yung mga challenges na hinaharap natin. Okay, next. So at the onset po ng sinasabi nating learning continuity program, sinabi nga natin na dapat yung mga dry runs, yung mga ginagawa po natin na pag-i-start yung ating learning continuity program ay ma-dry run po ito, lalong-lalo na po doon sa area na talagang poorest of the poor. Sinasabi natin na sana ay magawa din yung mga dry runs na yan, lalong-lalo na doon sa far-flung areas. Okay. So, next slide. Uncertainty in the quality of education. So, due to unreliable connection and other factors, most of the school will use the modular approach. So, ibig sabihin ng modular approach, this is a self-learning modules. No one will guide the students if the parents are illiterate. So, ito po yung mga ilang mga challenges. So, yung una, dahil ang ating mga estudyante na po ay magkakaroon na ng most of them will go to modular approach, self-learning modules. Ilan po sa mga comments ay una, hindi naman siya self-learning modules yung lahat, dahil sinasabi na kailangan talaga ng facilitators, kailangan talaga ng teachers na mag-facilitate doon sa mga modules. So, ang tanong, paano nga kung yung mga parents natin ay talagang hindi naman nila naabot yung level ng kanilang mga anak. So, yan yung isa pa sa mga challenges. Next slide. Due to insufficient funding, the production of printing of modules are left to the students. Kaya meron ngang sinasabing bond paper mo module po online campaign. So the post said that since each SLM can use up to 30 pages, good for 1 week per student, sustaining this will surely drain out the small budget of the schools and the personal funds of the teachers who are known use their own money to augment classroom supplies. So, yan, isa pa po challenge natin ay yung printing po ng mga modules. Okay, next slides. Based on the reports, teachers will be the one to distribute and retrieve the materials with the help of the LGU or the PTAs. But the budget for treatment of teachers. So yan. So dahil sinasabi na karamihan sa mga teachers natin, sila naman po ang magdi-distribute ng mga modules and magre-retrieve din later on. Ang problema po natin ay since ang transmission ng COVID ngayon ay talagang mataas pa, so problema tayo ngayon doon sa budget ng treatment in case na yung ating mga teachers po ay mahawa ng COVID. Yan. So wala po silang sapat na protection para doon. Okay, so next slide. So ito po no, yung mula sa ating mga nakuhang mga reports. Sabing ganon, pinag-house to house ang mga guro sa mga komunidad, pinagre-report physically sa school, lahat ng mga guro, maski senior at may mga karamdaman, walang provided na transportation. So meron din kaming nakuha sa Tandag City during MGCQ, naka-MGCQ sila, no? Pinag-house to house sa komunidad, physical reporting 3 times a week, walang provided na transportation. So mula naman po sa Cebu, yung report sa atin, pinag-report physically ang mga guro, hindi sinusunod ng school ang minimum health standard protocol, walang provided na transportation. So yan po yung ilan sa mga nire-report ng mga guro po sa atin. Na tingin natin ay very dangerous po sa ating mga teachers sa ngayon. Okay, next. So ano po yung mga demands ng mga kaguruan natin? So next slide. So yung una, resolbahin po ang krisis sa kalusugan at ekonomiya. So kailangan ng mass testing, dagdag na health workers, libreng pagpapagamot, ayuda sa mga nangangailangan, trabaho sa ating mga mamamayan, at syempre may mga lugar din po na talagang may mga ginagawang mga militarization, panunupil, at in terms sa mga quarantine, marami ding mga kinukulong or kinakasuhan sa pag-violate ng mga quarantine. Pangalawa po, gawing ligtas ang mga paaralan natin. So paano natin ito magagawang ligtas? So syempre, inuuna pa rin po natin doon yung mass testing ng ating mga vulnerable teachers, yung clinic, pagpapaliit ng class size, at iba pa po, syempre yung medical fund, etc. Pangatlo, tiyakin ang access at kalidad ng edukasyon. So, ang panawagan nga po ng mga teachers, laptop sa bawat guro, internet allowance, at syempre training sa mga guro at modules sa mga learning materials. Pang-apat, protektahan ang karapatan sa paggawa. So, sa mga private schools po, dapat walang tanggalan, meron dapat wage subsidy, yung hazard pay, dagdag na kompensasyon sa mga dagdag na oras ng trabaho, lalong-lalo na pag work from home, sapat na hazard pay, tsaka yung sick leave para sa ating mga kaguruan. At panglima, demokratikong konsultasyon sa mga guro at kawani. Konsultasyon sa mga magulang dahil bagamat sinasabi naman ng DepEd na nakikita naman nila yung mga panawagan ng Alliance of Concerned Teachers, tinutugunan naman ito. Pero maganda siguro kung mag-open ang DepEd, di ba, dun sa democratic consultation. Okay, next. So, sa bahagi po natin bilang legislator, so meron din po tayong in-incorporate na 6 na demands na related din po doon sa mga demands po ng ating mga kaguruan sa safe and quality education para doon sa ating mga teachers and other stakeholders. Okay, next. Legislative agenda, kaugnay din po sa mga kahilingan ng ating education sector. So we have filed different measures to address the concerns of our teachers and other education personnel, and of course the blended learning that being implemented by the DepEd. So next slide. So we have House Bill 6832 and House Bill 6848. So this is mandating free mass testing, contact tracing, and infection prevention protocols and disease surveillance. So this is related to House Bill 6848. So ito rin po yung mass testing para doon sa ating mga frontliners, especially the health workers, other vulnerable sectors and groups, and appropriating funds therefore. So medyo natugunan naman po ito doon sa Bayanihan 2 o yung BARO. Kaya lang kailangan din nating makita kung kasama ba dito yung mga education sector at kasama rin ba dito yung ating iba pang mga vulnerable sectors. So House Bill 6837, meron din po tayong panukalang batas para sa providing 1 doctor and 1 nurse for every large school and smaller schools, clustered smaller schools. Alam niyo po, no, ang nag-ano lang po ng mga may sakit na teachers or estudyante sa mga public schools ay yung mga tinatawag nating teacher or clinic teacher. So panahon na po na in a better normal, dapat meron na po talagang totoong health workers sa ating mga eskwelahan para ma-prevent yung pagkakasakit. Okay, next slide. Next slide. House Bill 7126, an act providing special hardship allowance for public school teachers. Provided naman ito as a provision in the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, RA 4670. Pero dito po sa panukalang batas natin, sinama na po natin yung mga in terms of pandemic, in terms of health crisis, dapat meron din po hardship allowance ang ating mga kaguruan. Kagaya nga na sinabi ko kanina, yung hazard pay, medyo magulo yung implementation kasi during ECQ and MECQ lang ito ay binibigay doon sa ating mga government employees. So how about yung mga nasa GCQ areas, etc. So yung House Bill 7126, ito po yung maglilinaw, no, doon sa mga existing na mga policies. House Bill 7034, an act providing for a monthly internet allowance for our public school teachers and appropriating funds therefore. Kulang na po yung sweldo ng ating mga guro. Yung kanilang ginagamit sa pagtuturo ay kinukuha pa dun sa kanilang bulsa. Although meron pong 3,500 a year na tinatawag nating chalk allowance, o kung gagamitin ito during the implementation of blended learning, 500 pesos a month lang po ito na gagamitin ng teachers natin para dun sa kanilang teaching supplies. At alam nyo po, sabi ng mga guro nga, 500 a week at least yung ginagamit sa mga internet connection or internet access. Kaya po tayo po ay nagpanukalang batas na 1,500 a month na internet allowance para sa mga guro. Sinabi kanina ni Yusek Sibilia na wala daw po itong legal basis. Kaya po tayo po ay nagpanukalang batas para mailagay ito doon sa general appropriation later on. House Bill 7125, an act expanding the purpose and application of SEF, Special Education Fund, amending for the purpose section 272 of RA 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991. So yung SEF po, no, this is funded by the local government coming from 1% of the real property tax every year. Dito po kinukuha yung mga ibang mga expenses para po sa ating mga eskwelahan, yung mga capital outlay at iba pang mga pagkakagastusan. So dinagdag po natin dito, no, yung allowances ng mga teachers natin kasi tinanggal yan doon sa mga previous issuances of the DBM. So we want it to be institutionalized, yung allowances ng mga teachers natin coming from the SEF. House Bill 5349, an act providing sick leave benefits of 30 days with pay per year to all public schools. May kasabihan ng mga teacher, bawal daw magkasakit ang mga guro during the course of their work. So pwede ka lang magkasakit siguro April and May dahil basically ito yung kanilang bakasyon. Pero ang mga teachers po sa totoo lang walang sick leave. Kaya po nag-propose po tayo for the whole year, sana magkaroon ng sick leave for at most 30 days for the whole year. Yan. Okay, next slide. Yan. Meron din po tayong final na House Resolution in aid of legislation, House Resolution 1109, calling for an urgent inquiry in aid of legislation into the DepEd's guideline on alternative work arrangements during the period of the state of national emergency due to COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of the same. Marami po tayong nakukuhang mga comments or complaints from the teachers na though work from home na sila, yung oras po sa paggawa, yung oras ng teacher sa bahay, during work from home ay na talaga nag-exceed doon sa talagang oras nila ng pagtatrabaho when we are in face-to-face. 6 hours lang yan, tapos 2 hours pwedeng gawin sa bahay, pwedeng gawin sa kahit na saan. Kaya ito po ay meron tayong inquiry dyan. Sinabit po natin yan sa Committee on Basic Education. Isa pa pong issue nila dito, yung mga teachers, no, meron kasing isang USEC din na nagsasabi na pwede daw maging 8 hours yung internet classes. So isa rin itong sinasabing issue ng ating mga kaguruan. Okay? So yon. So next po, yung last na inquiry po, next slide. Ayan. House Resolution 933, resolution urging the House Committee on Labor and Employment to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the exclusion of teachers and education support personnel in private and elementary high schools and higher education institution from the Department of Labor and Employment COVID-19 augmentation. Alam niyo po, nagkaroon po ng ayuda para dun sa ating mga nasa private sector. Kaya lang po in-exclude yung ating mga private school teachers noong ayuda. Gusto nating at imbestigahan ito dahil alam naman natin na yung mga teachers natin sa private school ay talagang affected sila nung COVID-19 lockdown. Marami nga po tayong teachers, sa report natin ay more or less 50,000 po yung nawala ng trabaho or nabawasan ng kita o nabawasan ng trabaho. Okay, so gusto nating maimbestigahan at itong sa Bayanihan 2 na-include sila doon na merong 300 million na budget, pero we will look into the IRR kung paano ito mapakaka-benefit sa ating mga private school teachers. Okay? So, ayan. So, next, yung Bayanihan 2, Education Fund, tingin po natin is not enough. Okay? So, yung Baro 4 billion lang po ang inalat for education. not enough supplemental budget, sabi po ng act. So ang estimated, next slide. So ang estimated po natin na expenses, no, na budget for ligtas na balik eskwela para sa lahat. So nag-ano po tayo ng construction of health and sanitation and disinfection facilities. Yan, 150 billion. Recruitment of health personnel at the school level, 150 million. Sanitary kits, ito po sa per school po ito. Of all the schools in the public schools, 900 million. Construction ng functional clinic at 1.5 billion per clinic, 69 billion. Additional classrooms, 140 billion. Connectivity of schools, 69.2 billion. Water supply improvement, 25 billion. Siyempre po, laptop, 18 billion. Internet allowance sa ating mga kaguruan, 13.5 billion. Yung printing ng modules, 46 billion. Siyempre po, doon sa ayuda natin, doon sa ating mga private school teachers, 500 million. So ito po yung tinitignan natin na na dapat na maibigay sa sektor ng edukasyon para matiyak po natin yung ligtas na balik eskwela para sa lahat. Siyempre, maka-recover po yung ating mga iba't ibang mga sektor, lalong-lalo na yung private school teachers doon sa pandemya. Okay. So, yun lang po at maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. At yan po yung ating ma-i-share sa ating webinar. Thank you.
Hi. So let's now welcome Mr. Raymond Basilio, Secretary General of Alliance of Concerned Teachers in the Philippines.
Yes, magandang hapon. Good afternoon, Ma'am Telma. Good afternoon sa aking mga kasama sa panel. May I ask the technical to project my my screen, the presentation, sorry.
That's it.
All right. Now I'll be presenting to you the results of the rapid survey that we conducted last July regarding the school opening for August 24 supposedly, pero na-atras ito to October 5. Okay. Next slide po. Okay, sige po. Now, yung survey natin, naglalaman siya noong questions dun sa basic na preparation supposedly na meron sa bawat eskwelahan sa buong bansa as regards sa pagbubukas ng klase, no. Mas ang focus nito ay tungkol doon sa kahandaan, no, both ng facilities sa kanong gagamitin ng mga teachers at mga bata. Sige po. So yung respondents natin ay nagmula sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas, 1,463 teachers all over the country. 33 nito or 2.3% indicated that their schools are not offering classes in the next academic year. Ibig sabihin, may nahagip po yung survey na mga mula sa private schools na magsasara na, no, ng operations dahil doon sa mga problema na kinaharap nila dala ng pandemic. Now, isang bahagi din ng survey dahil ito ay ginawa natin online because of our physical limitations, hindi nito covered yung mga far-flung areas na walang access sa internet. So, next slide po. So, ano yung mga basic na findings nito, no? Batay dun sa survey, 68% ng participants ng survey nagsabi na ito yung mga particulars na kanilang nakitang problema hinggil sa online distance learning. Una, sinasabi dito na kulang, no, yung guidance and training sa pag-produce ng online modules sa kanila. Pangalawa, they had difficulty in producing modules. No? 2/3 of those drafting online modules said they are not yet halfway through. No? This was July 24. No? Hindi pa sila nangangalahati doon sa laman ng module na kanilang gagamitin for the online classes. Next, teachers, pakibalik po. Sa abin dito ay hindi pa nila hawak no yung copy ng online module mula sa central office ng Department of Education. Ibig sabihin, yung kalakan ng mga teachers ay gumagawa ng modules batay doon sa kanilang sariling pamamaraan, no? Hindi pa ito yung prescribed mula sa central office. Isa sa bawat 5 teachers, no, sabi dito, will be teaching online. Pero wala silang computer, no, na naibigay sa kanila para magamitin nila, no. While 1 in 4 does not have access to the internet, no. So 25% yung walang access totally sa internet. Sige po. Now, of those working in schools that are offering classes in August, 2/3 or 67.5% said their schools are implementing online distance learning. Meanwhile, of the respondents expected to teach online, 43% said they have been tasked to drop their own modules. No? A third, or 37.6% of whom were not given any guide, sample, or standard in drafting the module. Naging usapin ito sa mga public school teachers kasi ito yung first time nagagawa sila ng module na gagamitin, no, doon sa klase. Kaya susing usapin sa mga teachers natin yung pagkakaroon ng guide or sample or yung training para sa kanila para magawa nila ito ng maayos. Next slide po. About half of the teachers are writing only a single online module, but more than 2/3 of them reported that they are not yet halfway through with the drafting. No? So, dahil nga doon sa kahirapan, no, kahirapan doon sa paggawa ng module dahil walang sapat na kasanayan pa, yung mga respondents sa survey, sinasabi nila na kahit na isang module lang yung pinapagawa ay hirap silang tapusin ito, no? Binabanggit din dito yung kawalan nga ng training. 32% of the respondents said they ever received training on writing online modules. Siyempre, yung modality kasi nagtatakda siya kung paano mo din gagawin yung module. No? Yung mga teachers natin sanay sa chalk saka sa blackboard. No? Iba din yung modality na yon. Ngayon, kapag nag-distant learning sila, yung modular, ay iba din yung pamamaraan kasi hawak ng bata yung material. Pag online, magkakaiba din, no, yung mga mekanismo. Kaya talagang ito yung nire-rehistro ng mga teachers natin na hirap sila dun sa paggawa. Next po. Sa access naman sa resources, no, about 1 in 5 teachers who will be teaching online reported that not having a computer they can use for schoolwork. No? While 1 in 4 does not have internet. Ito yung susing usapin dito na wala nga silang ginagamit para doon sa delivery ng online learning. Talagang sila yung magpo-produce ng kanilang gagamitin na computer. At ang matindi dito, mag-online teaching sila or mag-online na delivery sila, pero sila mismo ay walang access sa internet. Kaya ang nangyayari, ito yung mga teachers natin na napipilitan na pumunta sa mga eskwelahan dahil sa mga eskwelahan ay at least no may mga internet connection. Yung iba naman, yung sa kwento nila ay pumupunta sila dun sa bahay ng teacher na may connection sa internet. So talagang lumalabas itong mga teachers na ito kasi hindi nila ma-deliver yung learning modality na naka-assign sa kanila. Next slide po. Ayan, no? Sa modular distance naman, no, kagaya doon sa online, susing usapin pa rin yung kawalan ng proper guidance doon sa paggawa ng module. No? May kahirapan doon sa pag-produce ng module. Yung 2/3 of those drafting online modules said they are not yet happy. Ito yung sinasabi kanina, no? Siyam sa bawat 10 teachers ang nag-report na wala din silang nakuhang copy ng module mula sa central office. Now, in terms of funds for the printing of modules, 25% of 1 in 4 respondents answered their schools doon nila piniprint sa kanilang eskwelahan, while close to 1 in 5 said they do not have an idea. So hindi nila alam kung saan kukunin yung gastos para sa printing ng module. Some 5% noted they are shelling out funds or soliciting in order to print out the modules. No? Ito na yung binanggit kanina ni Congresswoman Franz Castro na yung bond paper mo, module ko. No? Pero sa ibang areas po, this morning lang, no, nakatanggap tayo ng information, halimbawa, na sa Tarlac Province, no, they were ordered to stop the printing of the modules kasi daw dumating na yung copy ng module from the central office at yun yung gagamitin nila. Nakakabahala ito Kasi gumastos ng sariling pera yung mga teachers, gumawa ng sariling paraan para mag-print ng mga modules na gagamitin, and yet hindi pala ito ang official module na gagamitin. So nasayang yung resources, nasayang yung effort, yung paghihirap ng mga teachers natin. Next slide po. Now, sa modular distant learning naman, 43.5% of valid respondents said they have been instructed to write their own modules. No? 37.9% of whom were not given any guide, sample, or standard. Again, the lack of training figures as reason for this, with 77.4% of those reported having finished none to 25% only of their modules content also reported not having received any appropriate training at all. Kaya susing usapin po talaga. Kasi pinagsabay po no, habang nagkakandak ng training yung Department of Education noong June, July, ay pinapagawa din sila ng module. Kaya magkasabay yung dalawang bagay, pero walang pagsisequence. Dapat nauna yung training bago yung paggawa ng module. Next slide po. Among those who are not dropping the modules, about 9 in 10 or 88.9% said that they have not received any copies of the module. 9.6% got a hold of some copies, while only 1.5% have already received all of the modules. Pinakamalaking bahagi nito yung nagsabi mula sa senior high school na wala talaga silang hawak kahit isang module. No? Kaya ang nangyayari ngayon ay kanya-kanya sila ng research at naghahanap ng paraan kung paano maitatawid yung pagtuturo ng senior high school this coming October 5. Now, in terms of funds naman para sa printing of modules, about 1 in 4 respondents answered that their schools will be paying for it, while close to 1 in 5 sabi na hindi niya alam at bahala na kung saan manggagaling yung pondo. No? Next po. Yan, sa TV radio-based distance learning naman, ang malinaw na sinasabi dito of teachers in school implementing TV and radio-based distance learning, 55.5% reportedly heard of any plans to provide TV or radio to students, but majority of them do not know whether there are already arrangement with TV or radio stations for the distant learning. So alam lang nila, may ilan sa kanila ay magtuturo sa mekanismong ito, pero hindi nila alam kung ano yung gagamitin para maitawid yung programa. No? 1 in 3 teachers who are drafting scripts, producing materials, have not received any guide. No? Almost all teachers concerned, 97.6%, have yet to receive copies of the material. So, ganun din, no? Yung susi talagang usapin dito, yung pagbabatayan ng instructional materials, ano, yung module na hindi pa rin talaga nila hawak. Next slide po. 1 in 4 respondents said they are implementing TV radio-based distance learning in August. Of them, 55.5% reportedly heard of any plans. Ito yung binabanggit ko kanina, no? Now, less than 1 in 10 of these teachers have been instructed to write scripts or produce learning materials for the TV or radio-based instruction. Exactly a third of whom have not received any guide. On the other hand, of those not instructed to write scripts or produce materials, almost all of them, or 97.6%, said they have yet to receive copies of these materials. Kaya yun din pa rin yung problema. Sige po. Next slide po. Now, close to half or 47% of teachers were ordered to physically report at least once since the community quarantine started. So hindi po totoo yung sinasabi na yung mga teachers ay totally work from home since June 1, no? Of which only 3% were provided transportation service and 4% were given hazard pay. So napakaliit po na porsyento yung kasi andun po yan sa protocols na inilabas ng Department of Education, no? Kapag naka-ECQ or MECQ, dapat provided yung transportation, no? Pero yun na nga, only 3% were provided transportation and only 4% were given hazard pay. Now, this is a concerning finding to say the least, given that more than 9 in 10 teachers expect that they will be required to report to school when the academic year opens. No? Although sinasabi na mag-work from home or walang face-to-face yung mga teachers sa mga bata, ay magre-report po pa rin yung mga teachers sa mga eskwelahan kasi dun sa distribution ng modules, dun sa pagre-retrieve ng mga modules, ay gagawin pa rin naman nila sa eskwelahan. Isang case nga nito, halimbawa sa Caloocan, no, na yung mga teachers ay instructed that they have to meet once a week yung kanilang mga parent para bigyan ng instruction kung paano yung module, no? Kung ano yung laman ng module. Kaya ang worry dito ng mga teachers, kung may 6 na klase ka sa isang araw and you have 40 students in a class, so gaano karami na parents yung imi-meet mo bawat linggo, no? Ayun po, next slide po. Now, the challenges of face-to-face classes and physical reporting naman, ang isa talaga sa na-note no, batay sa survey natin ay yung kawalan ng functional clinic bilang minimum na requirement dapat doon sa mga eskwelahan natin. And yet, some 45% of respondents said their schools do not have a functional clinic. No? Halos kalahati. Kaya ibig sabihin, paano nga ba mag-function yung mga eskwelahan kung mismo yung batayang pangailangan para sa usaping pangkalusugan wala sila. The situation is especially dire in rural areas, no, sa mga probinsya, no, where 56% of teachers reported that their schools do not have a functional clinic. Talagang pahirapan, no, kung paano ngayon yung usapin ng pag-handle sa pangailangan pangkalusugan. Next slide po. Now, additionally, sanitation infrastructure is severely lacking in schools. Only about 4 in 10 teachers noted that their school complies with the sanitation code. No? Ito yung nasa batas ito, no? Na dapat meron tayo nitong infrastructure sa bawat eskwelahan. No? This prescribes the ratio of 1 functional hand washing station per 50 students. Marami po sa mga eskwelahan ay wala pong supply ng tubig. Marami din po sa eskwelahan walang functional hand washing facilities. Kaya talagang magpo-problema tayo dun sa usapin ng paghuhugas ng kamay, which is very basic, no? Na minimum health protocol na ini-impose natin ngayon sa buong bansa. Paano po yan na hanggang ngayon wala pa rin tayong ganyan, no? Meanwhile, 38% of the respondents stated that they do not have separate toilets for male and female. The situation is even graver in rural areas, no? Kung sa mga cities po ang problema, kahit naman po may mga comfort rooms, wala din pong supply ng tubig. Kaya non-functional pa rin yung mga comfort rooms. Next slide po. Now, ito yung binabanggit kanina ni Congresswoman Franz, no, na yung mga requirements na kailangan ng ating mga teachers para makapag-deliver ng trabaho, ay nakita natin na pinoproblema talaga ng ating mga teachers. No? 6 sa bawat 10 ang nag-report na wala silang sariling printer sa bahay. Pero yun nga, no, napilitan sila na dahil ang nangyari nga ay walang hindi dumating yung pagpiprint ng modules on time, napilitan yung mga teachers natin na mag-engage na rin dun sa printing ng mga modules. Kaya marami nangutang na naman para bumili ng printer. Tapos ang pangako sa kanila, ito po yung pangako, kapag daw po nasira yung kanilang mga printers ay ipapaayos na lang ng eskwelahan kapag dumating na yung kanilang MOE. Parang may problema pa ata yun kasi hindi naman yun iaalaw ng batas, no? Kung babalikan natin yung Procurement Act, no? Kaya tingin namin dapat hindi ganun yung ginagawa na pinapaasa natin yung mga teachers, gagamitin natin yung resources nila at sasabihin na pag nasira ay papaayos natin, no? Close to 4 in 10 teachers stated that they have smartphones but cannot use them for online classes. Alam niyo, naglipanan yung iba't ibang klase ng smartphones, no? Pero pag sinabing online classes, medyo mataas po yung specs na hinahanap niyan. Kaya hindi po gagana yung basic na smartphone. Yan. Ito yung binanggit kanina ni Kong Franz. Next slide po. Next. Sige po, next po. Now, ito nga yung balikan ko tong problemang to. Alam niyo sa Facebook ko po, no, halos kalahati ng friends ko ay mga teachers. Minsan nakakaumay, lahat na nakikita ko ganito, no, solicitation ng bond paper, solicitation ng ink, solicitation ng printer, at pagtatawag doon sa kanilang mga alumni associations para i-provide yung mga pangailangan. Kaya talagang nakakaawa yung ating mga guro dahil at the end of the day, sila pa rin yung maghahanap ng mga paraan upang maitawid yung pangailangan ng pagbabalik eskwela, no? Yung pagtatawid dun sa pangailangan ng mga estudyante. Sana naman ay bigyang pansin ng pamahalaan kasi hindi po ito kabahagi sa job description ng ating mga teachers. Next slide po. Sige po, next slide po. So, dito po i-end ko yung presentation ko. Malinaw na dapat yung layunin natin ng pagbubukas ng klase ay nakaangkla tayo dun sa pagtingin na dapat ito ay ligtas at dapat tayo ay magbibigay ng kalidad na edukasyon. Yung result ng survey ay nagpapakita sa atin kung gaano kalaki yung hindi natugunan at yung kailangang tugunan upang matiyak na ligtas at tiyak na kalidad yung edukasyon na maibibigay natin sa kabataang Pilipino. Kagaya po sa karapatan natin sa isang maayos na serbisyong pangkalusugan ay karapatan din ng kabataang Pilipino yung kalidad at ligtas na edukasyon. Kaya dapat doon tayo nagkakaisa at dapat gumagawa ng paraan upang tiyakin ito. Yun lamang po, maraming salamat, magandang hapon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Basilio, for that extensive research you've done. So let's now welcome Teacher Rose Hayakay to share what they have done for the IP group.
Yan, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Muli ako po si Rose Hayahay. So, unang-una po nagpapasalamat ako sa TMAP, sa mga co-panelists na nabigyan ng pagkakataon galing sa Indigenous People Community and Lumad School sa Mindanao na makapagsalita. So, nare-request ko po yung tech person na i-play ang aking PowerPoint.
Ayun na. Ito na.
Ayan na. Ayan. Video po yan, pa-click.
A video.
Yeah.
Maganda niya. Sound.
Yan. So, next slide. Yan. So, ano po, yan. So, before ko po i-share sa inyo yung paano naghahanda ang mga lumad communities at lumad schools no, sa pasukan amidst lockdown, amidst yun, pandemic na hatid ng COVID-19, ay una, ipapakilala ko po muna kung sino po yung mga lumad, ano yung mga lumad. So, before po, ang lumad ay isa siyang Bisaya term at ito po ay makikita lamang sa Mindanao. So, kagaya po ng IP communities ay nasa far-flung area po kami. So, ang experience ko po bilang isang voluntaryong guro ay naglalakad po kami ng minimum ng 2 oras, maximum ng 2 days para makapunta sa mga lumad communities na andun sa Mindanao na ang lumad po pala ay compromises around 18 major ethno-linguistic groups na sa Mindanao lamang makikita. Next slide. Next slide. Yan. Dahil po sa malayo, no, malayo siya sa cities, malayo siya sa lungsod, ay hindi po naaabtan ng basic social services, very, very basic social services such as education and health. So, wala pong school na andon sa community mismo ng mga lumad. Kaya naman, next slide. Yan. 1980s, nagtayo na po ang lumad communities ng mga lumad schools sa tulong po ng iba't ibang organization, church, sa tulong po ng Italian missionary at ito po yung naipundar namin. So, ano po siya, hindi po siya kagandahan yung mga school building na meron kami, pero ini-ensure po namin na yun, na yung school na naipundar namin ay may matututunan ang mga bata, hindi lamang sa akademya, no, pati na rin po sa pangkalusugan at sa agriculture. Since yung lumad community ay itinayo siya base sa pangangailangan ng komunidad. Next slide. Next. So, ayan po yung mga school namin. Next. Next. Yan. So, way back 2012, 2014, no, nagkaroon po ng mga dialogue at isa po yung lumad schools na tumulong, no, para magkaroon ng Indigenous People Education Policy framework. Next slide. Kaya naman, yung mga lumad schools po ay recognize ang salugpungan, recognize po kami ng Department of Education as a private institution serving the indigenous people, indigenous community. So, may mga permit po kami, recognition ng Mayor's Office, recognize po siya ng Governor's Office. Yan. So, ayan po yung mga recognition certification at yung mga permit. Next slide. Yan. Next slide. And so may mga awards din pong nakukuha yung Alcadev, binibigyan po sila ng awards dahil nga po sa kahit na sobrang layo ng komunidad ay nagawa pa rin nilang abtan ng serbisyong pang-edukasyon ang mga katutubo. At yung school po na meron tayo, yung lumad schools, ay madami po tayong volunteer teachers. Ang mga volunteer teachers po na ito ay pumupunta po sila sa community at doon po sila nakikitira. So basically yung community na tinutukoy ko po ay walang signal, walang kuryente at wala po lahat. At dahil nga po yung school, naging isa siyang expression para depensahan yung lupang ninuno kasi sa history ng mga lumad talagang bigla-bigla kinukuha ang mga lupang ninuno at pinapakita sa kanila yung mga papel, no, na hindi nila maintindihan. Di nila kayang intindihin, di nila kayang basahin. Kaya naman, may nangyayari po. Next slide. Attacks on lumad schools. Next slide. Yan. So, si Obelio Bayao po, isang estudyante ng salupungan sa school kung saan ako nag-volunteer, salupungan Tatano, ay pinatay po siya last September 5, 2017 ng mga Kafguan Alamara. So, sino po yung Alamara? Sino po yung paramilitary? Supposedly, eto po yung mga tribal warrior. Pero dahil po may inside lumad communities, may nangyayari pong forced recruitment, no? Para pag may nangyaring patayan, tatawagin po nila itong tribal war. Next slide. Yan, si Emerito Samarca po. Pinatay po siya last September 1, 2015. Ngayon po ay 5 taon na siyang patay, no? At 5 taon na rin po kami nananawagan para sa hustisya. Si Emerito Samarca po ay na-recognize po siya at binigyan ng certificate, no, na kasi isa siyang executive director ng Alcadev, na kung saan po pinatay po siya sa harap mismo ng komunidad ng kanyang mga anak, kasama po sila Dato Belo Senso at isa pa pong dato sa kanilang community. Yan. Next slide. Si Teacher Julita Toleno. Si Teacher Julita Toleno po ay isang kasamahan kong guro na naglalakad ng matagal para makapunta sa community, nag-render ng service para makapag-abot ng edukasyon sa kapwa katutubo. Pero ang nangyari po sa kanya ay ngayon nakakulong siya at may mga trump-up and fabricated charges po siya. Trump-up charges na murder at frustrated murder na sinasabi na siya daw po ay nakapatay. No? At hindi lang po ito si Teacher Julita alone. Sa ngayon po, 31 na mga teachers, together with indigenous people, human rights defender, parents, ang humaharap sa iba't ibang fabricated cases. Next slide. Yan, ngayon naman po, amidst lockdown. So, habang nagkakagulo ang buong mundo dahil may pandemya, nagkakagulo ang mundo dahil may krisis pang kalusugan, ay eto po ang nangyayari sa mga lumad communities. Nung nakaraang May 20 po, 2020 ay nagkaroon ng military encampment inside sa school, no? Ng Alcadeb sa Lianga, Surigao del Sur. Nagkampo doon ang mga military at yon, pinaghaharas yung mga tao. Next slide. Yan. Wala na pong ligtas. Kasi mo bata ka, kasi mo teacher ka, kasi mo parents ka. Ito po ang nangyayari sa amin. No, last May 6, 2020 ay kinuha ang bata na sinasabing child at risk daw. Pagkatapos po nun ay sa pilitang kinuna ng video, in-interrogate at ginamit po siya sa online platform para mag-spread ng black propaganda. Next slide. Yan. Ito po ay nangyari last August 26, this last month. Yeah. Hindi, sobrang presko pa po nangyari. Yung mga paaralan na po yan ay tinayo po siya, dugot pawis ng lumad, dugot pawis na itinayo po ng lumad communities, teachers, students, and parents. Ay nangyayari po, ang nangyari doon ay winasak po siya ng paramilitary ng Bagani sa harap mismo ng komunidad habang ang komunidad po, mga tao sa komunidad ay nakapalibot sa kanya umiiyak. At yun, sinasabi na sana, no, ay wag namang sirain yung paaralan na yun lang ang meron sila eh. Diba? Edukasyon na hindi mananakaw ng kahit na sino. Na sana ay imbis na ipasara, bakit hindi na lang kami tulungan? At bakit pinapasara na may mga permit naman? Yun. So, nangyari po siya. No? Nangyari po siya sa panahon ng lockdown. Ang dami pa pong nangyayari na hindi nare-report. Ang dami pa pong mga human rights violation, killings, interrogation, threat, harassment na nangyayari na hindi natin. Kaya naman, no, habang magkakaroon na ng online class, naghahanda na, mabuti na lang at may Backwit School Davao City, Backwit School Cebu, Backwit School Metro Manila na may mga batang nakasama kami para ipagpatuloy ang kanilang pag-aaral at saka assertion na rin ng right to education and right to self-determination ng ating mga kapatid na lumad. Pero habang sa Mindanao, sa mga lumad communities sa Mindanao, sobrang intensify at high yung militarization. Walang access sa internet, walang access sa signal, walang resources. So, hindi po namin alam kung anong gagawin namin as an advocates for children's right to education, for lumad's right to education. Hindi ko po alam, hindi po namin alam kung ano yung mangyayari. Kasi, yan, nakakaranas kami ng iba't ibang mga human rights violation, tagging, at marami pa pong iba. Next slide. Video yan, paki-play na lang. So, mukhang may technical difficulties po. So, ayun, bilang panghuli, na habang naghahanda ang lahat, habang sinasabi ng Departamento ng Edukasyon na no student should be left behind. Pero ang tanong ko po, how about us? Paano po yung mga kabataan na andun sa lumad communities na ayun, walang resources at walang-wala lahat? Paano po ang kanilang edukasyon at paano po ang kanilang karapatan, basic human rights na education and right to self-determination? Yun lang po, maraming salamat. Yun lang po, maraming salamat po.
So we did not hear your message, Rose.
So, yung last message ko po na habang lahat ay naghahanda, no, habang sinasabi ng Departamento ng Edukasyon, ng mga teachers, ng student na no children, no student should be left behind. Yung tanong ko po ay how about us? Paano po kaming nasa lumad communities, paano po yung mga kabataan?
Yeah.
Yun po. Maraming salamat po.
Well, congratulations, Rose, for your courage, bravery. No? Okay? So it was such a heart-rending presentation that you gave to us this afternoon. Okay? So we pray for this, for the protection of the lumad. Okay? And maybe we need to drum up support for this special group of Filipinos. So keep on keeping on, Rose. Okay? You have a real difficult mission. Thank you. So now we will listen to the last member of the panel, and this is from Novel School in a Box, Implementation and Processes. So let's welcome Dr. Marco Meduranda.
All right. Am I heard now?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Thelma. Good afternoon to my fellow presenters and panelists. Thank you, PMAP, for the opportunity to share with you the little things that we have done here in the Division of City Schools, Navotas. My presentation has the following outline. First, I'll give a brief overview of DepEd Navotas context. Then, I'll quickly explain the distance learning modality that we adopted based on the data. Afterwards, I will share with you the experience we had during our simulation when we were able to test the processes and procedures of our distance learning package model. Now, SDO Navotas is in the northwestern coast of the National Capital Region. Despite the pandemic, our enrollment has reached 102.34%, or up to 48,828 learners. We are a medium-sized division composed of 15 public elementary schools and 9 secondary schools with a total of 1,644 teaching personnel. Based from the learner enrollment and survey form data, we were able to determine that in terms of distance learning modality, 44% of our parents prefer modular, while 28% wants online learning. Though most households in our division can support distance learning, we are very sensitive to equity considerations of the 4,924 homes with no devices for distance learning. This set of data guided the selection of learning modality and helped us develop sound interventions to make sure that basic education will be accessible to all Navotenyo learners. Later on, I'll be expounding more on these interventions that interwoven with our Navo School in a Box learning package. Now, what distance learning delivery modality have we adopted for school year 2020-2021? Based from data in our context, DepEd Navotas chose the blended learning modality composed of modular and online learning. We characterized our first modality as modified modular distance learning because we developed self-learning modules or SLMs in print or digital format, and we utilized text, chat, or messenger communication platform to follow up or follow through on students' remote learning. Our modules and other resources are contained in our Navo School in a Box, our contextualized learning package that contains the learning materials, which include lesson guides for parents and guardians, school supplies, and hygiene kits that were provided by schools through the help of their intensified Brigada Escuela and other resource mobilization efforts. We also have online distance learning, which for the first quarter will serve as support or reinforcement strategy to modular distance learning for learners who have access to technology. At this point now, our Navo School in a Box is customized depending on the grade level or target learners. For instance, in kindergarten, schools include toys and storybooks, which were donations from the Philippine Toy Library. For our learners with special education needs, or LSENs, their Navo School in a Box were individualized based on their disabilities or needs. One SPED center come up with color-coded scheme to ensure that appropriate learning and therapeutic materials are included in the box. Two schools even included small tables that go with the box to motivate the learners. Learners of our alternative learning system also have their customized boxes, which include flash drives loaded with video lessons. Our Navo School in a Box will not be possible without the strong support of our local government. In fact, Mayor Toby Tiangco allocated 15 million to purchase 49,000 storage containers that will ensure learning continuity for all Batang Navoteño. Furthermore, the city's special education fund were utilized to support the needs of our learning continuity program, which include printing and reproduction of modules, procurement of copying machines, tablets for our SHS, and the storage containers for our Navo School in a Box. To test the processes and procedures on how to deliver basic education through our Navo School in a Box learning package model, our division, through the leadership of our very proactive Division Schools Superintendent, Dr. Alejandro Ibanez, and the cooperation of all of our 24 public elementary and secondary school heads, conducted 2 waves of simulations or dry runs for distance learning. First, on June 30 to July 3, 2020, which is a pilot dry run conducted by 3 schools, and on August 3 to 7, which is a division-wide dry run for 21 public elementary and secondary schools, including SPED and ALS. Now, what I will share now is the video documentation of our simulation for kindergarten level. We have this notion that if distance learning can be done in kinder, the more that it could be successfully carried out in the higher grade levels. You will see here how our teachers was able to deliver distance learning instruction through our Navotas learning package or Navo School Box learning package model.
This shows the simulation of distance learning in kindergarten. Through the consolidation of data obtained from the LESF, or Learner Enrollment and Survey Form, the teacher was able to prepare the class list and learner's profile. All these documents were submitted and communicated to the school's principal. Through Project Kislap, weekly plan of activities, learning packets, parents' guide, and parents' checklist were made available. The preparation of Navo School in a Box included disinfecting of toys donated through the SDO's partnership with Philippine Toy Library, printing and assembling of activity packets, organizing the contents of the Novo School in a box such as learning packets, toys, storybook, donated school supplies through the Brigada Escuela. And lastly, disinfecting the Novo School in a box. Parent orientation was done by sending a video clip of instructions and information for parents via Messenger. Flexible home-based learning program was provided to accommodate the uniqueness of each family. A video of sample routines for home-based learning was also sent. For the distribution of Novo School in a box, staggered schedule was prepared to ensure social distancing in school. Parents followed the safety protocols in school and signed the logbook as they received the Novo School in a box. The distribution took place for about 3 minutes per parent. For families who couldn't get their Novo School in a box for valid reasons, teachers sent them via Hatid Aral. This was made possible with the coordination with the barangay. Safety protocols were also observed in the delivery program. Tutoral Learning Child is an initiative of the LGU to address the needs and concerns of families and guide them with their child's home-based learning. Class observation and monitoring with master teacher and supervisor was done virtually by including them in the messenger classroom with the parents' consent. Processes of the Division Star Patrol were also used to ensure technical assistance of the STO to schools through intensive implementation of RPMS PPSP protocols. This shows the unboxing of the Novo School in the box. These were the actual teaching learning episodes in the home-based learning program from day 1 to day 5. Integration of lessons about COVID-19 was done during the first week. Teachers provide supplemental videos for the learning packets. Using the messenger, parents send photos and videos of their child's accomplishments. Maraming kalaro si TikTok to. Marami namang magaling si TikTok ko.
Malinis ang kanyang lungga. Sino daw naglilinis ng lungga?
Si Hipon.
Si Hip.
Anong kulay ng For the return of outputs and replenishment of learning packets, teachers send instructions via text and messenger. Safety protocols were still in place for the retrieval and replenishment for the newbie. Staggered schedule was still used to ensure social distancing. Hatid Aral also helped in the retrieval and replenishment. Teacher checked and recorded the accomplished activity sheets of the learners. Portfolio and the Philippine Early Childhood Development Checklist are the main tools for assessment. The use of messenger is an important strategy to modular distance learning. Through
Hello?
this, teacher can send instructional videos or supplemental video lessons, facilitate communication with the parent and learner, and implement feedback monitoring program on a daily basis.
Hello? Hello?
This shows the simulation of distance learning.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Sir Raymond, please proceed po.
Okay. So I hope you have seen the presentation of at the kindergarten level, the processes and protocols that we have uh, shown to you, no, and it's clearly that distance learning, no, if planned really well, just to provide context, no, our teacher is very well versed now in this process because we have conducted 21 division initiated trainings on distance learning, as well on we have also conducted parent orientations so that parents know what to do, no, in their in how to supervise, no, home-based learning of their learners. And then I just want to also share, no, one last video from this time in the context of high school, and this will show to you the process and protocols in the secondary level.
Welcome to Navotas National High School, a school of hard work and innovation. It is committed to the task of continuing the work of improvement to give quality education for Bata. The School Learning Continuity Implementation Plan of NLHS is an active response to the call of the DepEd that education must continue in this pandemic. It adheres to the new normal landscape of education, the whole school framework on the adoption and implementation of basic education learning continuity plan. Project MCARD started in 2011 from MCARD 1.0 to MCARD 5.0 highlights the utilization of ICT systems and other media platforms in distance learning. From face-to-face learning to the new normal, the school's LCP is actualized by the individual work plans. Teachers and parents attended different web trainings. The school reconfigured the Brigada Escuela to fully assist the preparation of stakeholders for the opening of classes. The simulation for the distance learning was conducted on June 29 to July 3. Here is the process flow of school-based modular distance learning. NLHS simulation team prepared the Nabu School in a Box on June 27 to
Hello? Can you see the video?
No po. Sir, hindi po
Okay,
pa hindi po yung stop sharing.
stop sharing.
Yes po.
Ah,
Tapos, reshare lang po tayo.
okay. Wait, since naghang yung WebEx, naghang din yung hello? Can I play the video as a separate file?
Sir, pwede po.
Okay. Kindly enable share content. Thank you.
Welcome to Navotas National High School, a school of hard work and innovation. It is committed to the task of continuing the work of improvement to give quality education for Bata.
The School Learning Continuity Implementation Plan of NLHS is an active response to the call of the DepEd that education must continue in this time of pandemic. It adheres to the new normal landscape of education, the whole school framework on the adoption and implementation of Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. Project MCART started in 2011 from MCART 1.0 to MCART 5.0 highlights the utilization of ICT systems and other media platforms in distance learning. From face-to-face learning to the new normal, the school's LCP is actualized by the individual work plans. Teachers and parents attended different web trainings. The school reconfigured the Brigada Escuela to fully assist the preparation of stakeholders for the opening of classes. The simulation for the distance learning was conducted on June 29 to July 3. Here is the process flow of school-based modular distance learning. NLHS simulation team prepared the Nabu School in a Box on June 27 to 28. Nabu School in a Box is a pioneering concept of SDO Nabotas that contains all the learning resource packets needed by the learners in a contextualized distance learning. During the distribution of Nabu Box, NNHS set up an improvised hand-washing facility, which is part of the WITS program. The parents were reminded to wear masks, face shields, and observe social distancing at all times. Honorable John Ray Bianco graced the distribution of Nabu Box with an empowering message of support. Part of the simulation is the alternative way of module distribution through Hatid Aral project, where the assigned teacher assisted by the barangay personnel delivered the Nabu School in a Box to the learner's home. This will only happen if parents cannot pick up the box in school. The delivery of Nabu School in a Box became easier through the help of LGU and transport sector service. NLHS also implemented the Tutor a Learning Child program in partnership with the LGU.
Congressman John Ray Bianco.
Classes in the new normal with internet access follows a 1 hour per week online class. Classes without internet access use phone calls or text for any clarifications on the lesson. Nabu School in a Box includes the following. The distance learning is operationalized through home-based learning project called Anak Ko Gabayan Ko, which is a part of the school's earlier project called Parents Volunteer Brigade. With this, there will be a regular teleconferencing between teachers and parents to ensure that the needs of the students are being addressed. The modular distance learning with online teaching is reinforced through a virtual classroom using Zoom, MS Teams, Google Meet, Messenger Classroom, where the students can discuss ideas about the lesson. If in case the students don't have an access at all into the internet, NNHS also caters the mentoring program under the Parents Volunteer Brigade. The online classes of the teachers were also observed, monitored, and evaluated through the Star Patrol program. The retrieval of the Nabu School in a Box and replenishment of the modules follows a process of filling out forms and receiving feedback form from the teachers. Entire simulation of modified modular distance learning of NNHS received a lot of positive comments from the parents. School initiatives and partnerships are empowered through the support of the wider community, where everyone is actively participating for the improvement of the learners.
This pandemic drove us to be more resilient and innovative educators. Teachers are attending webinars for reskilling and upskilling because we want to adapt and respond proactively. Our SDO and school principal, together with our department heads, assist and journey with us in this unfamiliar education setting. Through learning action cells, now more than ever, parents or guardians and other stakeholders express their stronger support to the school.
Dito sa Navotas National High School, handa na kami para sa school year 2020-2021. Handa isip, handa bukas.
Those are just two of the schools here in Navotas with this kind of video documentation. If you're going to visit our official Facebook page, you'll see other 22 schools, no, which you will see the Handang Isip Handa Bukas video. So technically, that's the essence of our Navo School in a Box learning package model. And I just want to emphasize this, no, one of our interventions, because we are sensitive to equity consideration. We conceived this together with our Congressman John Reynald M. Chanco. So we are very much blessed to have a very supportive LGU. And this project, Tutor a Learning Child, no, provides help to those households where learners, no, cannot be supervised by their parents because their parents are probably has no ability, no, to supervise home-based learning because of educational attainment or other factors like probably on occupation or socioeconomic constraints. So we were able to identify beneficiaries, and we crafted our terms of references. We were able to get the support of our volunteers. We already have 400 plus volunteers, and we were able to train our volunteer tutors to help in the implementation of our learning continuity program, specifically for these learners who are in a very difficult situation. And here are some of our milestones. Because of our simulations and our constant planning, we are so blessed that our superintendent is giving us directions and very proactive. And so since April, we've been preparing a lot for the opening of classes. We are one of the divisions in the NCR with advanced level of preparation. And with all of this effort, we were able to refine our tools and processes and interventions for distance learning. We were able to harvest success stories from teachers and learning facilitators, positive feedback from parents and learners, and encouraging results of initial portfolio assessments showing engagement of learners in distance learning. So we were able to convince the parents to enroll their children, and the outcome is that we were able to exceed our more than 100% of our enrollment target. We were given invitations like this to share our best practices in the distance learning simulations. One of these is the DepEd Executives Committee of Basic Education in the Senate and the House of Representatives. And we've been sharing the tools and the processes that we were able to develop as we are benchmarked by other divisions and regions. So this is also one of our best practice Latin Aral program, which you were able to see in the videos. By the way, the videos are from Navotas National High School. The principal is Dr. Maria Cristina Robles. And a while ago, the kindergarten presentation was created by Mama Fatima Corina Robles of Bagumbayan Elementary School. And we treasure the opportunities again to share with you and to somehow provide you inspiration that even in these tough times, we are able to ensure basic education delivery to our learners. Again, our processes and tools are continuously improving. They are not perfect, but with a whole society approach and all of the DepEd approach, we will be able to deliver basic education in times of pandemic. Maraming salamat po.
Duranda, okay? We're so impressed by your accomplishment. I think for me personally, this is a trailblazing exercise that you have done. Okay? You have set the pace. And I may say you are light years ahead of everyone. So it's good that there's something very, very concrete already that has happened, and I hope everybody else will follow your example and the drive that you have. Okay, so thank you for this sharing. Okay,
Thank you so much,
So-
Ma'am Selma.
there's so much possibility in terms of the challenges we're facing that if we use our creative minds, no, we can accomplish so much. So I can sense the positivity of your community. No? You were able to put the resources together. So there's so much synergy. Okay? So thank you so much to all the panelists. Okay, this is such a very informative session we had. So let's now see if there are questions from the audience. Okay, so questions may be sent to the WebEx chat. No? So for those who are watching via Facebook or YouTube, kindly post your questions in the comment section. Maybe I can start already with Dr. Marco. There's a question here for you.
Sure
For
po.
Dr. Marco, what are your estimates on the sustainability of your model? Okay? Estimates daw on the sustainability of your model.
Actually, our model is continuously improving, no? Though in the first quarter, our blended learning modality focus on printed modules and online learning. But we will be able to sustain that because on the second quarter, we will be providing USB or USB OTG to the households who have devices, because we were able to identify 4,600 plus households na walang devices. So these are only the households that we will be giving printed modules. The rest 30,000 plus households we will be providing with USB OTG, and the local government has already pledged support on this transition to digital modular learning. And our LG also is intensifying our Wi-Fi hotspot, no? Yung mga libreng hotspot na itinatayo. So we will be transitioning into a more sustainable learning package model, no, from quarter to quarter.
Good. Yeah. Those who have money, let's start donating to you. Okay, another one here. Okay. Well, this is from a non-attendee. Okay? For USEC now, where is USEC San Antonio still here? How do we ensure the safety of our teachers and those that are in the workplace? Meron pa bang COVID-19 protection like free PCR test, hospitalization, hazard pay, among others, that is sponsored by the government? Yun. This is concerning the safety of teachers and those who are in the workforce.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Telma. As I mentioned earlier, we have issued a set of guidelines so that our fellow teachers and even the learners, if allowed to come to school eventually, will really observe the safety protocols. According to what I'm reading, if one sticks to the safety protocols, your chances of getting the COVID-19 virus is very low. For example, if you wear face masks, face shield, arm yourself with an alcohol, and make sure that social distancing is observed, then it's like 90% of most likely you will be protected. So what I'm saying is this one is very important, in the Department of Education has made sure this is in place. And in terms of the other things expected, we've also been sharing that in cases where or offices where there's one who has been identified as positive, we always, although some people would say this is not the right thing to do, but honestly, there is nothing in the government budget that actually allows us to give direct like funding support to anybody who will be ill, or who will be having COVID-19. So what we do, and we've been doing this for a long, long time, we use the bayanihan spirit. We help each other. Anybody who needs support is given support by our fellow teachers. this may be viewed as something negative by some who would say it's because of our own efforts. But this is very Filipino. We cannot just say one cannot be done. Even the mention earlier of like the bond papers being requested by our fellow teachers as donations. Our policy is yes, we will still respect people's desire to help us, but we prefer that the donations be given directly to the schools, not the teachers. So we do not really encourage the teachers to do it, but many of our fellow teachers have done that without being told, because that's just like what Nabotas has demonstrated. There are a lot more fellow members of the DepEd family who are so committed, who are so serious about our job, and we don't have to be told about what to do. We really are very mindful of the need for us to make sure that the kids will eventually learn. So all other, yeah, of course, we're covered by PhilHealth. We will always find ways of like providing financial support as long as they are allowed by government rules. Thank you po.
Thank you. Stay on. There's another question for you. Does DepEd a plan for IPs, for example, the resources for these indigenous people?
We have a very
For...
we have an office actually under my my strand, the Indigenous Peoples Education Office, that's taking care of all programs relative to all the indigenous peoples groups in our society. So we provide support, but yes, schools that are organized by private entities have to, of course, make sure that they comply with DepEd requirements. I'm not really completely aware of what happened with the Lumad schools, but I would always presume that what was done was consistent with the rules. There must be due process before certain schools could be ordered to desist from operating, because the Department of Education is supposed to regulate. So we have rules to be followed, and of course, when the rules are not adhered to, then DepEd has to really initiate measures to make sure that appropriate actions are made. So we have the Indigenous Peoples Education Office that's in charge of this. We have a regular program for making sure that the indigenous knowledge is actually mainstream, because we have a lot to learn from our brothers and sisters in indigenous communities. I am fully aware of that. And that's what we want to be able to do in the Department of Education.
So most of the audience here are so empathetic to the IPs, no? And then they're asking, what is your stand on the challenges that the IP communities are facing now? And are you open towards academic freeze given the mental health issues that the youth are facing? So this is actually a twin question ito. Okay?
With regards, Ma'am Telma, with regards to academic freeze, I think I'm sorry, but I have to disagree. I feel that in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have to offer an opportunity for our youngsters to be given experience to learn. I am fully aware that there are also children who are even asking, why can't I go to school? The secretary would always mention this. She would have like talks or conversations with children, and she has to explain why the basic education services cannot yet be offered in the public schools. So I know that there are people who feel that academic freeze is the better option. But as far as the Department of Education is concerned, ako po, I've been with DepEd for 35 years. I really can't afford to see a wasted year for our youngsters. There should be a way to make them learn. And we are offering them options. We are not actually doing this on compulsory basis. In fact, even the request for enrollment has been very democratic, and we're glad that more than 90% of the parents have decided to really go for education to be continued among our youngsters even during this time. So in terms of the mental health concerns, that's really a very serious concern not only among Filipinos. I understand around the world, even in Australia, there was this like letter from the bishops reminding everybody that they have to be mindful of the mental health of everybody. So this is really a challenge for all of us. And what I feel is because we will make learning based essentially at home, then this is a time for us to strengthen the bonds between parents and children. If children are loved, cared for by their own parents, I see no reason why the psychological issues would be hard to address. They are the best people to handle this. I mean, we're not saying that the teachers will cease to be teachers, but we will really this one is the time for parents to be more engaged. As I already mentioned earlier, according to what I've been reading as a teacher myself, one factor that has been identified as crucial for high performance is the engagement of parents in the academic lives of their children. This has not been questioned. This is a very conclusive finding of scholars around the world. And let's take advantage of this factor as we deliver distance learning or home-based learning during this COVID-19 time.
Thank you. But see, you still have one question here. For DepEd, how will mental health issues of teachers workforce be addressed?
First, Ma'am Telma, we've been organizing psychosocial first aid sessions, and we hope to be able to do this even prior to the official start of classes again. So the week prior to October 5, we'll devote another set of episodes even on TV highlighting the value of psychological first aid. All of us, including myself, need to really be somehow assured that we are fine. I understand how things are. And of course, being the USEC for curriculum and instruction, the burden is also very heavy on my shoulder. I would have perhaps enjoyed life better if I were just an ordinary teacher or principal waiting for my bosses to tell me what to do. Now, of course, the burden is on our team. And I even tell my friends, if there's only a way I can look for somebody else who can do this better, so that I could be freed from more stress, then I'll do it. But what I'm saying is all of us are going through certain moments of doubts, are we really doing the right thing? Are we going to really make sure that the children will really learn out of these things that we are trying to do? Nobody can tell. So what I'm saying is, but if we don't do anything, I'm very sure the kids will not learn. So we have to better try out certain things. And just like what Navotas has demonstrated, and it's being replicated around the country, you are right, Ma'am Telma, they blazed the trail, and all the succeeding dry runs demonstrated how they even improvised on what Navotas has done. So I think we're right. We were right in the decision not to prescribe certain specific on how we would deliver basic education services. The secretary was right in saying that the field has very competent and creative school officials and fellow teachers. And I think, as demonstrated by Navotas and many other areas in the country, we are actually seeing that there are efforts. And if you allow them to do it, the sustainability should not be a question because they own the process, they own the interventions, so they would value it so much. They will find ways to make sure that it will be successful.
Well, I think you answered this question already about institutionalizing the mental health policies. So this should become something permanent, more or less.
Yes, ma'am. We do that a lot. Although our initial dry runs were the calamities in the past. Taal volcano, the most recent of which was Taal volcano eruption. We had the seeds of Marawi. There were moments when we thought we would have to discontinue schooling, do academic freeze for a time, but we never allowed that. We had alternative delivery modalities. What we're doing now is not new. We are just doing it in a big scale. So people should not say DepEd has rushed everything in like less than 3 months. So everything will be shaky. Everything has not been thought out well. That's not the case. We have gathered our like experience from the past in terms of doing education in emergencies, alternative delivery modalities for certain learners in special circumstances. We are just scaling this up. And of course, for the first time, we're doing this in a massive, massive scale.
Thank you. This is for for Franz Castro and Mr. Basilio. What is your stand on academic freeze?
Okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am Telma, naririnig po ba ako?
Did you hear the question? What is your stand on academic freeze?
Kami po sa ACT Teachers Party List po, di po kami agree dun sa academic freeze. I agree with Yusek San Antonio, di ba, that in times of pandemic, the education of our children must continue. So, ito nga lang, dapat mapaghandaan lang talaga para hindi po tayo masacrifice yung health ng ating mga teachers, students, and other stakeholders. So, we believe that education continues even on pandemic time.
Will you be able to assist in in addressing internet connectivity for both teachers and students? Will you a bill or something of that sort?
Yeah, I have a bill on yun nga po yung laptop. We have a bill on providing internet allowance for our teachers, at least 1,500 a month. So yun po. Okay naman po ang DepEd, kaya nasabi nila wala pong legal basis. That's why I filed a bill para po magkaroon ng ma-institutionalize, magkaroon ng legal basis. And of course, I will pursue this during the budget time.
Very good. Thank you. So far, those are the questions now. And so we're just about to close our session here. Very, very, shall I say, informative, educative process that we went through. Okay, so we thank our audience for being engaged in this webinar, for your questions. No? We hope that you will share your insights and learnings with us through the comment box. Okay, so please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and other social media accounts for you to be notified about our webinars in the future. So thank you so much to our panelists who have given their time here and their innovative approaches on how to deal with our challenges. To you, Sec Diosdado San Antonio, Representative Franz Castro, Mr. Raymond Basilio, Teacher Jeannie Rose Ayahay, and Dr. Marco Meduranda for your generosity in sharing your knowledge, research findings, experiences. We also thank Executive Director Jenner, President Loy, and the entire PMAP community. Thank you and see you again in our future webinars. So God bless everyone. Keep your health vibrant against this pandemic. So God bless you. May the angels protect all of you. Okay?
You're welcome, Ma'am Telma.
Thank you, Ma'am Telma. Hello po, Yusek Dads.
Keep on keeping on.
Honorable Congressman Franz.
Yeah, see. Representative Franz is here. Okay. So thank you very much. Goodbye, and may the angels guard and protect you always.
God bless you too, Ma'am Telma.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how many came pala? You don't have that.